It's been a great day. Some wonderful speakers have been floating around, and really enjoyed the morning session. So if anyone from the morning sessions is here, Carl, I see you. Really thank you so much for making the presentations. Brent here, he did a presentation on Scandinavia, and then a few other people. So thank you first, and just a round of applause to our presenters. We really appreciate people making the time to come out and offer and share the stories of what they're doing. It's critically important. They act as case studies and inspirations for people going next. I'd also like to thank the audience for being here. It's been a really diverse group. We've got people from about 5 or 6 different schools, faculty from other schools as well as students, Pratt people, and it's just really nice to get diverse kind of multi-educational institutions kind of in the room thing. So I want to thank you all for coming and participating in everything that's been going on. I'd also, before I introduce our guests, like to thank Carolyn. She always ducks out. Carolyn, are you in the room? I don't see her, right? So when I will give a signal or something. When Carolyn comes in, and just to thank her for all the work, because Carolyn Shaverly is the person who put this together. She's the Associate Director of the CSDS. She organizes this every year, along with the staff of volunteers who help make this happen. Would not happen without them. And we really just want to thank you all who made this happen. And then when Carolyn comes in, we'll give her a little surprise. So thank you to the volunteers. I really appreciate it. And she did this to me last year, too. It's really funny. So we're here to, oh, and the other thing is just some points of business. This is the start of Green Week. So Pratt every year does a week-long extravaganza event of sorts that really shows off what's going on at Pratt, offers presentations like this, speakers, we give bike helmets away. There's just all sorts of things that happen over the week. So I really encourage you all, and it's open to the public. It's not just for the people in the school. So I encourage you to take a look at that program. It's online on csds.pratt.edu. And I want to thank Tetsu, who is the major reason Green Week happens, who's sitting right here. You know, we get so much accomplished here because there are people who really take it on and make it happen, and Tetsu is definitely one of the people who makes Green Week not only happen, but it's just gotten more elegant and more brilliant every year. So thank you again, Tetsu, for that, and for everyone in the Sustainability Coalition that works with you to make that happen as well. So it's really a real feather in Pratt's cap to have something like this happening every year. So thank you for that. So I'm going to introduce, this last session is really about how do you take ideas and generate them into something that can become a viable business, and then how do you grow that business. And it's really, you know, it's one of those things, we talk a lot about sustainability, we talk a lot about making things happen, having great ideas, but we don't sort of talk about those next stages of turning it into something viable, to making it real to the point of where you're actually making your living from your idea. And so as an entrepreneur, so we really want to have that conversation about where do ideas come from, how do you incubate those ideas, and how do you then generate or accelerate those ideas into a growing business. And with us is Rhonda Schaller, the director of the Center for Career and Professional Development. So thank you, Rhonda, for being here. And she's going to lead the conversation on Generate. And then Brenna Tucker. Brenna or Brenna? Brenna, okay. I've been doing it both ways. So Brenna Tucker, who's the Associate Director of the Center for Career and Professional Development. And she's really going to lead some kind of questions around that will help you sort of reflect about where you're at with these various things and lead some conversation. Yeah.
I was going to thought maybe student I always hear from. So,
yeah. And I always put people on the spot. So we're going to lead into that. So we're here to talk about sustainability in relationship to business. And there are really three pillars when we think about sustainability that apply. So you have sort of, you know, the economic sustainability. I mean, it starts there, really. If you can't sustain it financially, it's not going to work. So there's the economic sustainability, there's the environmental impact side of what you're doing, and then there's the social side of the what I think of as the consequences of what you're doing. This whole thing is about what are the consequences of what you're doing and putting out there into the world. And so that, just to give you a definition of what we mean by sustainability, it's a viable business, it's caring about the environment, and it understands the consequences of putting something out there into the world, both socially and environmentally. And there's a big question. A big question, it's an elephant in the room in most cases, is really this idea of our consumer society and who we are out there as consumers, and that's driving business, that's driving viability. And then the side of how do you make sustainability, where you want less consumer, you want less consumption, you want better consumption anyway. But all in all, it's still consumption, and how do we start to tame that, right? How do we start to essentially make less and still create viable lives? And I think that's one of the big challenges in front of us right now, is how do you balance that? It's great to go out there and make things that don't have much of an impact, where people are being paid better, where the quality of the product is better, that it's made out of organic materials, that it's produced locally. Those are all really great things. But we're still dealing with this economic system that's consumer-driven, that's consumption-driven, and it's a really hard thing to shift and change. And so in the heart of what we're doing, when I start to talk about business, I always have to go back to that place, that ultimately it could be a broken model that we're helping to band-aid into place. And where might transformation come from? I don't have the answer. I think it's the really important and the most challenging question that we all need to be thinking about. So within that environment, without on that kind of downer side of it, right, there's this other side of entrepreneurship, of owning your life, about taking your life on and bringing it forward and doing something valuable with it that really takes on your own values, that commits you to your own values. For the people who were here earlier, Tiffany and David and Nina, who've just started their own company, they were really talking about the fabulousness of owning their business. As much as they don't sleep like night, that it's a roller coaster ride, that they're never sure when something like crazy is going to happen, that they have this freedom to do it the way they want to do it, and that's what brings them and puts them into that space. So the desire to be an entrepreneur, I think, is noble and good and so connected to talent. And I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda to really talk about the first stages of that. And then we'll continue the conversation collectively. But I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome, everyone.
Well, when we talk about generating ideas, what we really need to keep in mind is how do we generate a sense of self that can act as momentum to sustain a vision? Because if we don't have the reflection of self and connection to the meaning of why something matters as a starting point, then businesses fail. We identify with a sense of failure because we run out of gas. Really, really strong. So one of the things that we started doing here through the Center for Career and Professional Development to help entrepreneurs really identify the vision, why it matters, how to keep it going, and who they are in that process, to connect to what I like to call sparks of insight and flashes of intuition. Because for creative people, and as a working artist for 30-some-odd years, without that grounding in insight, formation, and sustenance, I would have stopped making a million music. I have to do 5 things concurrently in order to keep it going. So I'm going to not go to sleep at night because I'm in production mode, and I've got a 4-year-old who's crying in the other room, and I'm hoping my husband gets that or my partner gets it together because I have this and I've been. So how do I replenish that? So how do I generate energy to keep that vision going? So we launched something here called the Meditation Incubator Project. which I hope is going to feed into Deb's incubator and accelerator. And really what that's about is using meditation and visualization as a process to connect to why what we do matters and to uncover a really bottomless source of insight and imagery to act as fuel for momentum. I very much believe that part of our momentum system is missing from our education. You know, I can teach you how to write a business plan. Actually, Britta could probably do it better than I. But what I'd rather teach you is how to bring your business into being because you're replenished enough that you know your flashes of insight that come when you're sleeping and then feed your rational brain when you actually get it done. One of my favorite quotes is from Einstein. He said he came up with his theory of relativity because he used to imagine with writing on a blank. And he would just imagine he's writing on a blank. I'm married to a scientist, so I have a lot of scientists. You'll not share that yet. But this idea that sustainability really starts with self. And I think that's probably the most important message that I wanted to come and really share with you. And then there are the 4 other elements that a reflection on self and a meditative sense of silence and spaciousness can help feed and understanding where your business goes, is through that connection to your authenticity. Because we lose sight of what's authentic, nothing we do is going to matter. And then, of course, the value. What's the value of that vision, and does that feed me and rise up very fiber of my being? So what I value is reflected outside of me, as well as within me. Then, of course, market. We have to know who we're doing it for. And are we reflective of what the market is teaching us and what the needs are? Because if we make it for ourselves, there's no market for it. We're ended up shooting ourselves in the foot, but we can create markets. We have to be reflective enough of self, know thyself long enough that we can see ourselves reflected in the market and the market reflected in us. And then perseverance. An absolute commitment, an incontrovertible idea that I do not know. A million years ago, when I was in my 40s, I was under 13, the head of the Museum of Modern Art in the Department of Painting and Sculpture looked at my work because he said, a gal has been working all these years, and I don't know her name, and she's still working and still knocking at my door. It's worth looking at. Because she was persevering, is what he told at that time, this was Bill Rubin told the art teacher who was not at the school. So perseverance really, really matters. And resilience. And I'm back again to personal resilience. Have to stay in touch with why it matters. Why does it matter? Because if you lose sight of that, you don't get up in the morning. It has to matter enough to you and to the world because it's connected to the community. So I just want to finish this little talk about how we generate ideas through, I like words that have the same letter. So my R words are research, relationships, and referrals. You always have to find your R words out in the community to launch your ideas. But the ones that self-generate enough of the C words, those are conversation, collaboration, community, commerce. And we connect them through vision making and understanding that our visions matter. So we meditate. I will teach you. Come to our meditation incubator. We have a wonderful course in Deb's Design Entrepreneurship Certificate Program called Awakening the Entrepreneur Within, which allows you to connect your entrepreneurial mindset to a shifting sense of reflective, meditative practice. And I can explain what that means, at our break. And then you do it. You need creative mind and you need business mind, and they have to be bridged. You cannot have one without the other. And I very much believe our personal development leads to opportunity development, as career development is dead. So we think of it instead as a personal opportunity to make a difference through business mind that's creative. So that's really how I wanted to start this conversation on how we generate ideas. It comes from self to reflect in the world, it comes back to self and to reflect in the world, and it's a dance we do.
I'm going to come step into the conversation a couple of times here. Did everybody get a handout? There's plenty more on the table if you need one. So part of what I do in the Center for Career and Professional Development is okay. Part of what I do is offer workshops and training and information, and I get an amazing opportunity to do a lot of research on what it means to make your ideas into something. So what I want to do with you guys is do a little bit of workshopping. So I have some resources for you that are kind of based on the title of the talk is Generate, Incubate, Accelerate. So those are not necessarily the 3 stages, that this is a perfectly linear process. What I feel is that those are points in innovation and sort of creative development that are really highly vulnerable. So as we go through this, I'm going to have you guys kind of ask yourself 3 different questions, and the first one is, what do you want? So what I mean by that is, what kind of impact do you want to make, and what type of life do you want to build? So what are the kinds of things that you're really hoping for? And it's on here as aspirations. So just take a minute now and write down in a word, in a sentence, what are your aspirations? What kind of change, what kind of impact do you want to make? And once you've written it, you have to hold yourself to that. So it's a high pressure moment here. You have to go out and do this. So once you have a sense of what you want, turn to your neighbor and find out what their aspirations are and share yours with them just for a second here. Make sure you hear from each other. Okay, so did everybody get a chance to share? I can bring it back. Uh-oh. Did everybody get a chance to share their operation? Let's see together. So, this is one of the most important questions I think that you ask yourself is, what kind of impact do you want to make? So what is it?
Okay, if we can all focus.
I love that you guys want to continue chatting. That's really exciting. So it's a really important question. What is it that you want? A lot of things are fed in sort of the business mind of creativity on demand. If you have bills to pay, if you have things that you need to do, that might drive what you're doing. So it's really important to ask yourself this question over and over again. So that's the first one we're going to start with, and I'm going to come back in a minute, but I'm going to ask Deb to come back up to talk about incubate.
It's wonderful when you ask somebody such a hard question, like what's your aspiration? People are able to do it, and then the conversation density of sharing it just makes you realize how deeply connected it is to your passion and what you want to be, and that's great. And it's right that you use those moments as things to go back to, and again, for people who were here earlier, You know, that's what Tiffany and Nina and David are doing. They're always going back to their vision for the company to try to understand, are they connected to it? Are they still connected to it? Always like keeping yourself on track. And those aspirations should have long lives. They should be thought of as in long lives. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the incubate side and the accelerate side, and a little bit about kind of how we got to those places. So I'm going to start with incubating. We had the Pratt Design Incubator started in 2002 for a number of reasons. One, I saw, and I mentioned this before, tremendous talent in the ideas that the students were creating, turning into portfolio pieces, and then just evaporating and going away. And these brilliant ideas were never thought about beyond that, or turned into kind of real products or real benefits to the people out there that could benefit from them. And so I started the incubator with that intention, to capture some of that and to give it a place to grow. And so we started in 2002, one business at a time, downstairs in the engineering building, and we had about 3 or 4 companies go through. I'd give students that I would sort of select. This is when I was chair of the industrial design program. You know, I'd select a student that I thought was really excelling and give them that space for a year, give them a phone, and they had to scavenge all their own furniture, and I would help them a little bit with mentorship, but they were really on their own to see whether or not they could take their idea and turn it into a business. And it's grown. We're still around. We're now at the Navy Yard. We have 15 businesses from all sorts of directions. We're focused on sustainability. We have fashion design businesses, hydropower company, solar power company, product design, furniture design, a variety of other companies in there, all working together at various stages of their development. And one of the things that I discovered over the 10+ years of doing this was designers didn't know anything about business. They just were clueless business people. They had learned, I said this earlier, you know, they'd come to school, they had learned to be brilliant designers, but they really didn't know how to be brilliant business people. And you need those 4 years to figure out who you are as a talent. It's critical to focus on that. But there still was this need, essentially, to take those ideas, especially in today's world, and teach people how to get it to that next stage. And so we worked with the people in the incubator quite a bit, and I'll share some images of some of the people in the incubator. But I ended up saying, well, why am I just doing this for the people in the incubator? You know, everybody at Pratt, all the students, the alumni, are facing this when they graduate. You sort of have this brilliant career at Pratt, you graduate, and the next step is, now what do I do? How do I get a job? How do I do this? There's not a lot of attention focused on that in school. And so we started the Certificate in Design Entrepreneurship program specifically to fill that need. And so what we're doing is offering courses. We offer the June program. I'm going to go forward. There, we offer a program in June. It's a month-long certificate program. You can take the classes individually as well, but it centers around a 1-week intensive that's very industry-focused. So you want to be a fashion designer, you want to be a product designer, you want to start a design consultancy, and it really focuses it on how do you do that. And then it's surrounded with all the other business skill things you need. How do you stay out of trouble legally? Right? How do you give presentations? Negotiation. This is a class everybody in the world needs. Who are negotiating their whole lives. And nobody really understands, unless you've taken a class, how to do it. Life-changing. If you do nothing else from this whole experience, go find a class in negotiation. It will change your life forever. And classes like Awakening the Entrepreneurial Spirit, or Designing the Life That You Want to Live, business and design, tools for integrating sustainability into your work. And in a month, essentially, you really get sort of the crash course of being a business person. So for those of you who are in school, who are part of Pratt, who aren't part of Pratt, it's something that's offered out there. The nice thing about it is really focused on designers and how designers learn, which is different from other people. We are different. Artists and designers are different. We just have a different take. I love this story. I was in a drawing class, and this is a funny story. we were doing a drawing exercise, and the professor said, turn the page. So I turned the page. And he started laughing, and I couldn't figure out what he was laughing at. But it's, we have that alternate take on what it means on some level. So, so these classes are really designed for people who are a little bit deer in the headlights around what business is, what numbers are, 5-year business plan. These things are seem really scary. And the thing that's really important to understand is they're not. They're fairly mundane. It's a set of things that you do, that you look at. The hard part, you heard I'm going to say kids because they're like kids to me. The hard part is the talent. That's the hard part. And if you can harness that and put it through the business sort of framework, you've got so much out there to offer yourself. So a couple of the businesses in the incubator, this is Alvaro, graduated from the Industrial Design Department. He's a product designer, won a Red Dot Award recently, and is growing his business really brilliantly. And I'm smiling because the last time I saw him, he said, Deb, I just wouldn't be doing this unless I was in the incubator. That sense of community that you're talking about, being around people who are doing the same thing, really drives you on. So it's not that you have to be in the incubator community, but you have to be a part of a community to have that sense of connectedness that Ron has been talking about. Really Brothers is a toy company. They do these little cardboard collectible toys. They've been in the incubator for a couple of years, so it's sort of playful toy design. Alder, which is a menswear company, and Apothecary, they were here earlier talking about what they are up to. And then this is some of the professors in the entrepreneurship program. So the incubator has been, again, around since 2002. We're now doing this expansion contraction thing. So the incubator proper, which is now over in the Navy Yard, is downsizing, and it's going to have 4 companies here and downstairs in the engineering building. So Pratt is committing a space to entrepreneurship back on campus, which is great because it means there's peer-to-peer learning on what it means to be an entrepreneur. And so you'll be able to sort of brush shoulders with the entrepreneurs on campus, which I think is going to be really exciting. And it will be open to any student and recent alumni who's got a great idea that they're about to put in their portfolio, but they don't want it to evaporate. They do want to turn it into a business. So that's something that I'm very excited to be bringing back onto campus. And I'll speak a little bit after this next round about the accelerator, which is the growth side of what we're doing. So back to you very much.
So the next question that I have for you guys, now that you've sort of thought a little bit heard from Rhonda about how to generate ideas, thought a little bit about what you want to do, and then start to hear stories of how people are actually doing this. Once you have those types of ideas and you have you started to think about what kind of impact you want to make, what are the things that you need to actually make that impact, to actually put those types of things into practice, to move forward and to do the work that you do. So take a minute on the back of your sheet again and write 2 necessities, 2 things that you think you need to move forward with your ideas. Just 2 for now.
First 2 that come into your mind.
If you need 3, it's just big trouble then, you know? So before you turn to your neighbor, I'm going to ask people to stand up because I think part of having creative ideas and wanting to put them into practice and realizing that there's so many things that you need is a sense of community and realizing that so many other people need the same thing. So does anybody want to volunteer and share one of their needs? Yes.
Time and space.
Time and space. Anybody else need time? Anybody else need space? Yay. Anybody else want to volunteer? Yes.
Sense of self.
Sense of self. Anybody else need that? I do. Who else has a necessity they want to share?
Money and contacts.
Anybody need money? Contacts? Yeah. Quite a few contacts in this room, so just making sure you look around. Who else has a necessity? Yes.
Colleagues to collaborate with.
Collaborative colleagues. Yes. Who else needs collaborative colleagues? see, everybody here going out after this, talking about how to do ideas. So part of what I think is interesting about this is that when you start to think about how these ideas go into practice, one of my favorite quotes is, I think it's Peter Drucker, who said, "Business, that's easy, it's other people's money." So, which always made me feel even further away from business, because, oh, well then it's other people's money, so it's never going to be mine. But the idea of that is we all don't have enough to do what we want to do by ourselves. So we have to think about what we need and how we can access that. And sometimes it's other people's money, sometimes it's other people's ideas and community and camaraderie and all of that kind of stuff. So it's always important to think about what your needs are and how many other people are with you in that same sense of necessity, and how you can collaborate and kind of build stronger businesses that way. So.
Yeah. I have to switch.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to do it. Oh, that's right there. Wow, they made it so easy. Love it. I think you go to the PDF. This one.
And then I don't know how to make it bigger.
I don't either. Do you know how to make it go full screen? I know there's something with the broadcast that we can't. We don't have that on the screen. Sorry, everyone. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. Let's do that.
Is that okay?
That's fine with me. Works for all of you. It's big enough screen. We're in good shape, as long as it's okay for the broadcast. So I mentioned before that we're bringing the incubator back onto campus. And the exciting news is that we're taking what we've learned from the incubator, which has been working with a lot of designers and some engineers, some from Pratt, some from other places, and started the Brooklyn Fashion and Design Accelerator. So over the past couple of years, I've been out trying to raise money to essentially expand what we're doing and create a more formal space to do the work that we're trying to do and develop the program. And I'm happy to say that we've gotten about $1.5 million from the city and from the state, as well as a commitment from Pratt Institute to make this thing happen. It's going to be an incredible thing for Brooklyn, for designers, for kind of the world in general. One of the things I should say is one of my visions is I want to change the world. I think it needs to be a better place. And everything I do is related to that. And a lot of it is about creating a place where people can take the risk. Because we were just talking about we can't all do it on our own, that we need to make change together, that we need to do these things collaboratively. And so how do we bring people together and change the world together is really critical, because I know I've tried to change the world on my own and just didn't work. The incubator, I should start with the incubator really coming from the accelerator, the idea for the accelerator really coming from Shannon South, who is a person in the incubator who does a beautiful line of bespoke bags, as well as other types of handbag products. Bespoke meaning you send her your old leather jacket, and she'll turn it into a beautiful bag and give it a whole other life. Anyway, Shannon came up to me at one point. She goes, "Deb, I can't afford success." And I went, "What?" And she said, "I can't afford success." And tell me what that means. She said, "Well, I can make them one at a time on my own, and I don't have big enough orders to go to somebody else and really have them make them for me. And success right now is between those two things, and I just can't do it. And I don't want publicity, I don't want sales, I just can't deliver on those orders." And for me, that became the spark of what I understood the gap to be. And the accelerator started to really look at how it could provide the resources for people trying to start their businesses, especially around fashion, product design, and media, but with an edge on fashion, to help people kind of bridge that gap. How do you get from made by me to made by others in a way that a business can scale up? And that's just one of the big hurdles that young companies have. So I owe a lot to Shannon for that one remark, because it really stimulated everything that came after that. So the Brooklyn Fashion and Design Accelerator is a space that's going to have about 30 companies in it. Just to give you a brief description, it's going to have an apparel production facility, a micro-run production facility, designed for Shannon, right? It's going to allow people to do runs of 20 or 25, maybe 30. The minimums in New York to do something are around 50. If you're lucky, you can get somebody to do 50. But nobody really is interested in making 20 of something for you. And so we're going to create the facility, shine a big light on it to all of New York and say, if you need 20, come here. This is a place for you to get your products done. So it will really help the young designers get through that gap to scale, really critically important gap to scale. We'll also have digital fabrication labs, so we'll have RP machines and laser cutters. We're getting a stole knitting machine, so we'll be able to do knitwear. We'll have digital printers that will print fabrics. Daphne's in the room. She could list off everything we're buying because she's responsible for the shopping list. But we really want to create a sandbox for young companies where they can experiment, where the tools of being a creative person are right around you, and you're able to actually see everything from idea to prototype to production to sales. That's the goal. We'll have a showroom, a big event space. I'll show you some pictures in a minute, some of the renderings. But it's important to realize that the incubator is not just about apparel. That apparel is a part of it. And Nina and David spoke to it. We think of fashion, we define fashion differently. We define fashion as lifestyle. So when you think about big fashion designers, they're not just making apparel. They're making furniture, they're making home goods, they're making pottery, ceramic lines. They're decorating the interiors of the next Jeep, that sort of thing. But they're much broader than just apparel. And so our definition is really goes way beyond just apparel. We're an ecosystem for design commerce. I talked about having fashion designers, product designers, accessory designers, film, media, social media people, those companies all in the same room because they can feed off of each other. They can support each other. They can do things for each other. They can be a photographer's putting a portfolio together, and he can go to one of the fashion designers and say, let me shoot your next line. And they can, one gets pictures, the other gets their portfolio, and things on the website can be developed. So it's really about that ecosystem. And again, being able to go from idea to go to the apparel production, to go to the showroom, to have everything right in that space. We're creating viable businesses. That's really the point of what we're doing, right? So we've got these 30 companies that are coming in, and they're at a stage where they want to grow, they don't know how to grow, and they get the resources that they need from us in this space. And their purpose and our purpose with them is to be able to make them viable. They've got great ideas, but they're not quite paying the bills. How do you ramp that up? How do you scale it up? We were having the scale conversation before. These are big questions. Again, going back to Shannon, how do I go from made by me to made by others? Because I'm never going to make a livelihood if I'm always the person making it. So really critical thing. The other cool thing is we're creating local jobs. We're creating a garment factory. We'll be hiring about 18 people to come in and actually work in our environment over 3 years, and very connected to the community with programs as well. One of the most interesting areas for me outside the sustainability area is this relationship between technology and fashion. We're all feeling it right now. We're going to have research labs that are really going to sort of push into that territory and look about wearable technology, look to how do you create new and exciting forms using digital technology for fashion. I don't know if any of you have heard of Francis Baconti. He's an architecture student, graduated from Pratt, who's now doing fashion through digital technology. So he did a project this summer that I thought was just beautiful. It was an algorithm of a flock of birds, and you have this flock of birds sort of fly around a person's body, and as it went through the back, it would sort of spread out, and as it got tucked around a corner, it would get more narrow. And then he printed that path that was created by this algorithm around a body form that he had put in the computer, printed it out with a MakerBot that was able to print in very flexible material, not hard plastic, but really flexible material. He created this gorgeous net that you would wear over a black dress, and it was spectacular. And that kind of technological exploration around finding form fascinates me. And so I want more. When anything fascinates me, it's just like, more, give me more. And so that's one of the things that we'll be exploring. And then there's the whole, Google Glass and wearable technology, and how technology, just sort of, I don't know what to call it. What is technology doing to our lives? I mean, is it running rampant? Is it like making it fabulous? I'm hearing that you can't wear Google glasses in bars anymore because people don't want to be so public. I mean, it's really interesting, the whole privacy issue that's created on some level with technology. And the most important thing is that we're redefining fashion to benefit the environment and society. That's really the main goal of the accelerators. How do we take these companies, help them understand the impact of what they're doing, help them understand how to improve that impact, and at the same time have viable businesses? This is critical. This is what is, it's really kind of the world change that we're looking for. How do we change how it works now? It's obviously broken. Most of you probably know a lot of the issues around toxicities and dyes and materials and waste streams and water waste, and fashion is just such a big culprit in our lives. We love to buy it, we love to wear it, we want it. Amy earlier talked about this whole idea of the Taylor Project and how do we want less? It's a really interesting question. How do I make myself want less? That's the journey that you're having right now, the Taylor Project. And so there are so many questions to ask, so many opportunities to look at business models and try to make those shifts. We don't know where it's going to go. All we know is we're going to put ourselves into this and work our way through it and see what we can come up with. It's incredibly exciting to think about the opportunity the opportunities there, and also very importantly, we want to share what we learn. So we're not a closed incubator space. It's wide open. Anyone's welcome to come in. We'll have opportunities for events to bring together really smart questions, smart people that think about really hard questions, and then let people know kind of what we think, and to share that knowledge. Again, it goes back to community and collaboration and making sure that you're connecting outwardly, that it's not just you here, but it's you kind of in that kind of wide breadth. So these are the people I like to hang out with, especially change agents, and these are the people who are going to be in the accelerator. These are the people I work with now. I feel incredibly thankful to have so many really amazing people on this path alongside me. This is a floor plan for architects in the room who like floor plans. What you're looking here in the colored areas, these are the studio spaces for our designers. The blue areas are research labs. The apparel production and RP lab and a dye lab will be in the offing. It's not in there yet. The event spaces on the far right, where we can do just hang out during the day, or we can do lectures or conferences. It's even set up where we can do a fashion show. So you kind of turn a switch and you've got a fashion show ready to go. We'll be doing a lot of public events as well. This is what we call the plaza space, the area where I was, that changes a lot. Just a great hangout space, big kitchen, food's really important to us. The ability to just have a retail space and do anything and everything. Again, it's a highly flexible space that also transforms into a fashion show. So this is its fashion show configuration, which is pretty. I love this image. I think it's so beautiful. This is what it looks like kind of going down our halls. The first phase of construction, we won't have the beautiful glass. It'll be the second phase, but otherwise it'll look like that. That's one of the studios that will, it's a shared studio space for people. And then this is part of the apparel production facility that we'll be putting together. So what we're really focused on now, and we're open and up for business. We're not at the Pfizer space yet. We will be in July. But we are working with 15 new companies that are coming into the accelerator. And these are the questions we're really not struggling with, but really focused on. How do we provide the best experience for our venture fellows? How do we link to existing resources? We want to do apparel production, but we want to do it in a very narrow framework. We want to do 25 to 30 of things. The minute it starts to get to the minimums that New York wants, we want to push it towards those people. We want to make sure that we're helping make other businesses vital by creating viable businesses that then can actually afford to go to the higher level of production. How can we redefine fashion to benefit society? This is our big question. And how is technology changing the future of fashion? These are the big intellectual questions that we're working on. And then how can we use our resources to engage the local community? This is also critically important. We want to do workforce development and K-12 programs in this space as well. My goal is to use the resources we've been given, the knowledge and passion that we have, to the most effectively, in the most effective way that we can. And for me, that means bringing the community right in with us to help understand fashion and technology and design and entrepreneurship, whether it's somebody who's doing, looking for a job, or it's a kid in high school who's trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. A really critical piece. And then we're also looking for our partners. All of this will happen because we have a lot of strategic partners. And that's basically the accelerator, and I'm delighted to be able to share it with you. Thank you. No, I think we can then open it up to questions.
Okay. While they're finding the slide, one of the things that we've done here in the career and professional development area, I'm here kind of here now. Some alike, some they whisper about, it's all good. We follow our duty, do what we need, and what we've done really is we reframed career and professional development here to be enterprise and employability. So students who are coming through take the skills and amazing tools and vision they get academically in the classroom, and then they can come to us to figure out where does that place themselves and to really take the entrepreneurial mindset into the incubator, eventually into an accelerator. And if they're not ready to germinate, I can, I will, I am, and then find their business model that way. I just wanted to share if there are any students in the room, you should come see us.
And come visit us in the incubator. Anyone's welcome to come visit us in the incubator at the Center for Sustainable Design Studies Resource Lab. We just love. And we're here to help people get to where they want to go. And so, regardless of if you're from PAD or from outside PAD, you're welcome to come in and speak with us. Because
what are they coming to right now?
Basically downstairs in engineering, we'll be down the hall. So the Center for Sustainable Design Strategies, that has a beautiful resource library, does a lot of research projects. It's downstairs in engineering 008, that's just on the lower level. And then we'll be down the hall with the Craft Design Incubator. And the accelerator's offices will be there until we open up the Pfizer building, which will be, I think, July 1st.
So not still in the Navy.
No, not sure. Moving out of the window.
So I have one more question before I open it up to hear from you guys again. So the last question is, what is your superpower? And I have to give a little credit to Deb there because I asked that question in a much more boring way when we originally started this.
And I have to give credit to Alan Chachman, who's a professor here all the time.
So when we first started talking, there was the idea of the 3 pillars of sustainability: environmental, social, and economic. So as you start to think about what it is that you want, what it is you need to make the things you want happen, what are the things that inherently make you amazing or awesome? So I've been working with artists and thinking about career paths and ways that they can build a life for about 10 years. And my superpower is that I can tell pretty much just by looking at you that everyone in this room is amazing. So there's something that makes you amazing. What is it that's inherent about you that you can bring to the world, that you can show, that you can sort of empower yourself to make those kinds of changes? So make sure you think about that as well. So I want to open it up a little bit if you're interested in sharing your superpower, if you have questions for myself, Rhonda, or Deb, or you're also in a room with, as you saw from everyone's necessities and aspirations, like-minded people. So if you just have questions for the audience as well, now is the time to kind of open up that dialogue. And I also want to ask, just leave it with one sort of open-ended question as well. Who is it that you want to be? So. Questions, yeah.
I have a question. Deb, you like putting people on the spot. I like to put you on the spot. Because on the resource page,
Okay,
it
the first
mentions
time.
that Kate Fletcher was one of the sources, and I believe you just came back from hearing Kate Fletcher. I'm wondering, are there ideas or values that were shared at that conference that might be relevant?
I'm happy to answer that question, but I think that after
Sure.
Brenda gets through this part of the exercise,
Yeah, no.
I have a lot to share there. Yeah.
It's open to kind of whatever you guys, in terms of, like, does anyone want to share their superpower, or do you have questions for us or for each other? I just think it's a good opportunity to get feedback and try to build connections and utilize this not only as a space for you to hear from, panelists versus audience, but also from each other.
So I will answer that question.
That's
So Kate Fletcher is an amazing woman who's written a couple of great books around fashion and sustainability. One with Linda Brooks, who was also at the conference. It was at the London School of Fashion. I think Kate's message is really about consumerism. And how do we change the fashion industry in order to reduce the number of products that are out there. And it's a tough position because it really challenges the whole economic system that we have. And we're based on growing businesses. We all want to raise next year. If you want to raise next year, it means the business has got to grow in order to provide you with that raise. And they're all out there loving buying things. She did this amazing project where she photographed and interviewed people in their sort of favorite piece of clothing, and had just beautiful stories around that. But I don't think she has an answer. I think she's posing a very idealistic vision of where it needs to go. I believe in that vision. I think that is where we need to bring it. You just don't know how to get there. And nobody in the room knew how to get there either. So there was this wonderful intersection of people who were really vested in making this happen, and not a lot of pathways to get there. It's a lot of thinking. I was talking to somebody earlier. We need economists in the room. We need a broader spectrum of knowledge in the room really trying to answer this question, not just designers.
I was going to say that perhaps this question, who do you want to be, is better stated, who are you? Because who you want to be is really, I think, the old paradigm. Because this is career, this is pointing outward. And you can't see outward until you see inward. And I think this is the problem in pedagogy, because it's just based on information overload. And unless you can expand the container of knowledge, you can't navigate all this information. This is the stress that most college students, especially at
I think your intention is the intention of this phrase, and it was moving away from what do you want to do.
Yeah.
It was really, what's your job? People defining themselves kind of around their work rather than around who they are. So,
yeah.
quite
Their
well
mission,
taken,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had in the school of architecture Thursday night, 4 major people, and not so much the question of who you want to be, but how do you handle ultimate creating? And 2 ideas on CNN last week. One half are shopping malls going in, because people are doing things on the internet, they're ordering fashion, internet, etc. One of the speakers from California showed that the automation, he showed a whole series of things like fashion products and other products, that now the computers are, to get a box to you in your mail or delivered by UPS, the computers have got all the, they actually move around in the space. So an individual designer can come up with an idea, express it. They may not want to work for a big corporate. They might want to work at home, in their own live workspace here in New York City somewhere, because we do have such a phenomenon as live work spaces under the zoning and building work. So the fact that the designer these days can whatever they can do in getting at this point how you want to be, how you want to conduct your life, you can end up having your product delivered to someone through all the computer mechanisms. And I must tell you, I was rather startled by how much it has grown and how many people are dependent on things other than fashion shops or little stores and big Walmarts. I mean, the Walmart space, they're asking their employees, or well, maybe not employees, but their executives, who do you want to be to adjust to this change?
I think you're saying, what is your goal? None of us are perfect, so we're not there. Is that correct?
I think it, for me, and I think we all agree, it goes deeper than that. It's not goal, it's less goal oriented. It's really understanding who you are at your deepest core level, because that core is going to serve you the rest of your life. And understanding, instead of maybe battling it and becoming what other people are asking you to be, it's really kind of doing that inward conversation. I think you should act that.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add that so much of the time, whether we're conscious of it or not, we're projecting. So whether it's our products, our market, our value, our delivery, we're really superimposing who we are, how we define ourselves onto our audience, you or me, or me. And if we don't have a good sense of what that vision is and who we are, what we're becoming, and that in the process of becoming, then we lose track of what we're projecting. To add on to what Mr. was saying, 47% of all jobs that we know right now are going to be disappearing in the next few years. Kind of an amazing part of it. Most people will juggle at least 29 different jobs in the course of their lifetime. In addition to fine artists, we're used to. So dreams, on some level, are just goals with deadlines, right? So we just think of it that way, we can combine them. So we embody our dreams, and I think what we're talking about is to allow ourselves the capacity to embody who we are, our dreams, and make it a living, make it a product, make it part of the interaction, conversation we have with the world, to what we make it who we are.
It is really going back to sustainability, sustaining yourself.
Sustain, right? How do you
Yes.
sustain yourself? Yeah, you-
I think it's interesting. I mean, not calling that, but I think, is it, just so I understand you, are you guys more asking, like, more passionate about
Is that what you're asking? I think a big piece, like a lot of the work that I do, working with artists and designers, is not, they have oftentimes you have a very clear sense of exactly what it is that you want to do. And there's a big, one of the qualities that I think is so necessary is courage. And that's a lot of the talking that I do is about how you actually, one of my favorite speeches came out of a conference a year ago, and it was, this person who had a goal. So they're standing on one side of it, and then there's a goal on the other side, and in the center was this fiery pit of failure and death. And so that first step, like you just assume, like the goal's right there, like I understand what it is, I know what it looks like, I know what it tastes like, I know everything, I can envision it, so that who I am, piece is really there, but making the steps, there's this sense of fear, and I think fear is connected to debt. I think fear is connected to peer pressure. I think fear is connected to a lot of things. So that idea of courage is really what the superpower is about. So even if I work at job A, B, or C, there's a piece of me that's going to end up sort of running the line along all of those, and that's my superpower. That's who I am inherently. That's how I approach problems. That's how I think. That's the impact I want to make. Those are the things I need. So it's kind of encompassing all of that, but also how that empowers you and gives you the courage to do it. Because the fiery pit of death, it's not a real thing.
And sometimes you have to peel back, you have to just keep changing the language until you find the way it's phrased that resonates with you.
Well, I feel like I do know what that is. What it comes to me, I feel like, tomorrow you're good at that. Like, it doesn't really work at, you're good at that. So, just to make sure I
Yeah. And then you figure out, why does it matter?
So it'd be good to maybe hear some superpowers. Questions, but I'd love to hear some superpowers.
Let's tell you about my superpower.
Thank you.
I'm an awesome cheerleader. I love cheerleading people on, and by cheerleading them on, I feel sparks of like, yeah, I can do it, even when they're doubting themselves. Just that little bit of courage, you know, giving them that courage from the cheerleading helps them move past that. And I try to put that back on myself too, cheerleading myself. I think I cheerlead others more than myself. So I'm trying to cheerlead more than myself as well. That is my superpower.
Any other superpowers? Yeah.
I took a little couple words, but passion, love, justice, authenticity, and community.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I started my journey of like art. First, my art was completely art. Finance designer. Graduated from IT. I just saw beauty in the space. Then I thought the monetizing it. I thought that I was really good at branding because I used to be people. That's not my passion for art. Everything personalities.
Any others?
Learn to fly.
No, but I learned my superpower because I'm not afraid to jump off cliffs. Even though I can't fly.
I got one.
Go ahead.
Well, for me, it was a late standing salt. I had come to craft. I had 41 years ago. I don't feel it. But I had survived 3 interviews at school art. And I don't know why it was, but I was scared to death to talk about it again. And the late standing salt, he took this and said, wait a minute. You've got your feelings, you're wearing your feelings on your shoulders or your shirt sleeves, like you said. You've got to toughen up. You've got to not worry about what other people think about what you're doing. If you believe in what you're doing, just do it. And toughen up. And I think I did. I think he also said it'd be a little mean, but I hope.
I was going to say one of my superpowers is love. And in the spirit of that, I went to this crash course here in that long history. Probably a lot of us want to get to know each other and network more. We actually started a Facebook based on sustainable fashion. If anybody wants to look it up, join.
That's great. That makes me feel so good. And it's so interesting because it's completely connected to your superpower. So we sort of naturally cheerlead or jump off cliffs or connect or, you know, as we that's where your superpower is. When I'm talking to my students, I would say, how do you get that superpower into your portfolio? Right? How do you I connect people into your portfolio? Bring that conversation up as an interview. Critical. And these are the skills that are rarely brought up in that environment, and yet those are the things people sort of instinctively want to know about. So it's a great conversation to have with yourself, and then really how do you put it out there? In a way, talking about commoditizing your superpower, sort of finding the right place in the world.
I actually follow that up with a question. I'm going to graduate in May, and in terms of business, I'm a designer, but I have no business sense. So I'm curious more about like the certificate for design entrepreneurship. Is that merely for people who specifically want to start their own? Like that's not my dream, you know, right now immediately, but you know, maybe 10 years from now. And obviously, I guess my question is, coming out of that position, what are some of the resources that are, you know, including the certificate for design entrepreneurship? I see it on the table, you know. So what are your recommendations?
We've got a great list here for you. I will say that taking the certificate program will make you smarter and more valuable to anybody you work with, whether it's yourself or somebody else. Understanding what it means to be taking design into the business world, just, you know, when you can have that conversation with somebody you're working with, it's such a relief. right? It's not just some designer who doesn't know reality, but you know the reality that people are facing.
Well, I think that's biggest like step for me right now as I'm preparing my portfolio and everything. It's like school is an amazing environment, but at the same time, I still feel removed in a sense.
Come to
from
us.
reality.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we're here, and we have a whole startup series that we initiated that Brennan has done for no matter what your method, message, or medium is, how do you start up in your mind and make it feel. So that's why
It's a
we're
great
here.
resource. Really good resource. Are we on?
But yeah, just to sort of touch on that as well, this is the resource list that we put together so that you guys can take action on all of these ideas. But this is a definition of a startup, and it says an organization dedicated to creating something new or extreme certainty. And the first time I read that, I just took out the word organization. Anything dedicated to creating something new or conditions of extreme uncertainty. To me, that was my studio practice as an artist. That was my first day at a new job. Everything about the notion of entrepreneurship, not specifically I want to start a business, it's how do I know that something may or may not work, but I feel that it's really important and I want to push it into the world and make that happen. So whether you do that starting a business or starting a new job or creating a community organization or working in a painting studio, to me it's all within the same conversation.
It sounds like, what the title of graduation should be.
Yeah, I joke.
I mean,
I
you're
joke
starting
somewhat
this extreme
inappropriately.
uncertainty.
I joke somewhat inappropriately of the trauma of an arts degree. Like, I just graduated, I had all this support system, and now, oh my goodness. So there's a real sense of it's a traumatic experience. It's a real, brand new, totally exposed, very vulnerable moment, and it's really exciting, and there's a lot that can be done with it. So.
And it only lasts about 12 weeks. It's really interesting to watch students graduate and come back to visit a couple of months later, and you look completely different. It's unbelievable. Just the relaxedness about being out in the world and the excitement for where you're taking it next. It's fantastic. But it's like crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could deal with this motto of class. Be true to your work, and your work will be true to you. Maybe Dave, I have to say, maybe Dave. But I think it's an interesting thing that needs to be redefined, because it's not just the work. And it's really more the other way around. Be true to yourself, and yourself will be true to your work. It's really an inverse.
Yeah. Well, I think we're basically at time. This has been great. Great to have you here. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this conversation in. And Carolyn is finally in the room. And join the Facebook. I think that's so great. And Carolyn,
I really, this has been such a pleasure. This is our 4th year putting the crash course together. And every year it gets more impressive and exciting, more people attend, more outside people attend, which is so wonderful learning. But this is not possible without our amazing student help. So for those of you who helped today, please stand up really quick because I honestly
that's great. So next year, same time, same place. We'll see y'all again. Thank you so much. That's great. Yeah, really good. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Sorry, just